Welcome to Wednesday Walks Together. My name is Mark Long, rector of the parish of St Andrew in Newlands, Cape Town. Just a heads up that there will not be a Wednesday walk next week, as I will be taking a few days of retreat and recreation. But today I'd like to ask the question, how would you describe your relationship with God right now? You probably don't have an easy off-the-cuff answer to that question, or hopefully you don't have an easy off-the-cuff answer. But something I would really encourage you to think about. I'd like you to reflect beyond that, though, to think back and perhaps ask, how has your relationship with God changed over the last few years? What has been the movement in that relationship? No relationship is ever stagnant. It either moves forward or it goes backwards. And what have been the changes? And are you able to identify those and see some sort of movement taking place? Perhaps also to then ask the question, how has my relationship with God changed over the last 100 or so days, this period of lockdown, this very new context in which we find ourselves? Whether you've had a lot of time in your hands or whether you find yourself quite busy, I think the newness of what we're coping with has probably had us reflecting about a number of different aspects of our lives. Maybe not always consciously, but in our subconscious, I think we do quite a lot of work. And so again, has there been movement in this time? And the answer, of course, is that yes, there has been, but what has that movement been? What is it? And of course, what does this mean for the future? We head into a future where normal will be uncertainty, a kind of continual uncertainty that we need to become resilient with as we walk that particular aspect of life's journey. But with it all is this key question: where are we in our relationship with God? One of the areas that was part of our previous experience, perhaps for many of us, was meeting together physically in a church building for worship, afterwards for fellowship, around these times for service to our community and our world. That's kind of gone, and yet not quite. We found other ways to worship together. We gather, certainly at St Andrews, via Zoom on a Sunday morning. Others gather during the week in Bible study. Perhaps you actually have come across these particular interactions with me, and your experience hasn't been church-bound or based for a long time. But there's still for you a relationship with God, and one that you're wanting to nurture and see grow and develop. And so there are a whole lot of questions that then hang around that bigger question of where are we with God? Where are we with the Christian faith? Where are we with the church? And the church on two levels: church just as the people of God, as that grouping that seeks to live out the purpose of God in our world, but also church as institution, a kind of ordered gathering of people for worship, for praise, for activity. And how have the last 100 days changed our perspectives? I don't have any easy and quick answers for you. I'm grappling, I realized, with all of those myself. But realizing that there are certain things I really miss, there are other aspects that I don't. There are things that I'm really enjoying about communicating virtually and worshiping virtually at the moment. There are aspects that I'm really not enjoying about this time as well. Just the freedom to relate and be and all that goes with that. And realizing that I'm having to learn to live with this, of course, is part of the challenge. And within all of that, asking the question, where is God? And not from the perspective that God might be lost, but where am I encountering God in and on this journey? How am I discovering my home in that relationship with God? And what is it? What does it ask of me? What does it require of me? What do I want of it? And how does that all relate to the wider nature of connection with other people, with what God is doing in the world that I live in and serve? And I suspect you may be asking similar questions, maybe in slightly different ways, unique to your own context and personality. But I do want to leave you with that question. How would you describe your relationship with God right now? And in closing, I would like to share a poem from Padraig Tuama, from a lovely book that I've discovered, In the Shelter, Finding a Home in the World. And this poem is one that I'm walking with as I ask these questions that I've shared with you today. The poem is entitled Staring Match. I stare at the icon, the sacrament, and the sacred story. I stare at the window, the bread, and the familiar words. With only myself to blame, I repeat the question that restrained me. What is all this for? And what will this bring? And what should I do now? And then there's that great silence that greets me. So I try to greet it with a liturgy for the morning, a little vitamin, hoping that opening the day with rhythm might calm the encounter with the selves I ignore, might help a life be lived more generously, might help the eye see inside the icon, might help the story sound, might help the bread be found by the place that's hungry.